Hello.
Hey, Vinay.
What are you wearing?
Oh, sunglasses.
Oh, very cool.
I forgot other ones today, so I took some from work.
Ah,
Um, and they have wings.
yeah, I can see that. Love it. Okay,
Here, let
so
me do
where?
this.
Uh, oh, they weren't distracting at all.
No, not at all.
No. Oh, that's funny. So where are you now?
I am back in Dallas.
Oh, you're back in Dallas. Okay. Are you?
I
Are
know.
you?
How rare.
Huh?
I said, how rare.
How rare? Yeah. When are you? You going to be driving long?
Not terribly long.
Okay. Good. Good. And did you do your homework? There's the delay.
Really just got, so I didn't have time. And it
Uh,
was terrible.
the connection's not very good, so I kind of didn't get all of that.
I was traveling, so I wasn't able to.
Let's see. Zoom. Okay. There we go. We're coming in. And Peter's here right on time. Okay. So who has been practicing their elevator pitches for Peter this week? Hi, Peter. Anyone?
Yeah, I'm gonna go get it.
You're going to go get it. Okay, good. Terry, welcome. Welcome, Dwayne. Welcome, Sylvie. All right, so Trey kicked us off last week with elevator pitches. Who wants to go this time? Terry.
Now, mind you, I had it kind of planned out, and my 13-year-old daughter just walked in 15 minutes ago and took a pen to what I was doing and was trying to change everything. So here's the new version that I'm still kind of reading. So, okay. So,
Fresh off
yes. Okay. Are you ready to go from being fearful to absolutely ferocious? My name is Terry Moten, and I'll help you break through to your next level in business and in life. I'll teach you how to develop confidence, set goals you'll actually achieve, and balance this craziness we call life.
That's good.
Okay.
It's really good. Can you say the first few words again? I didn't catch the very first ones.
Sure. It was, are you ready to go from being fearful to absolutely ferocious?
Yeah. Sounds good.
Okay.
The only problem with that, if any, and I have to kind of nitpick, is that you're using very strong words in the very beginning, and you're putting it into a question. Basically you're not asking literally, but you're implying that the question is, you feel like you feel fearful, right? And you want to do this, right? If not, this is for you. So it's the words are good, but the one thing that I would consider is making it a little easier to think, yes, that's for me, even though I haven't used those exact words in my head. By putting it into the I help, like in the form of I help women, or I help people go from this to this. It's a little easier to say that or think, yes, that sounds like me, than are you ready to do this? Because then it's very direct. It's very much like, well,
Okay.
am I ready? Well, I don't really know, which translates
Okay.
to no. It's either
Okay.
yes, that's perfect, or it's automatically no. Whereas if you say, I help people go from this to this, it's a lot easier to think that, well, that's not exactly me, but it's very close to the path I want to take. So yeah, I guess
Okay.
that's for me. So I would think of just rephrasing. I think it's the first two parts of the thing, that the one that I asked you to repeat, and then the next one thing
Okay.
where I think you said, my name is Terry Motion
Mhm.
and I help. So if you combine those, I think it just might be easier to say, yeah, or not literally say, but think, yes,
Mhm.
that sounds like something I want to know more of.
Okay. So does the fearful and the ferocious in the beginning, do those, I guess, adjectives or what have you, do they need to be softened then?
No, I don't think so. I think it's if you
Okay.
just rephrase, like reorganize the words into,
Okay.
I help people go from feeling this to feeling this. It's kind of like
Okay.
saying, I help people I help people who want to go from Finland to Italy.
Mhm.
So someone in Estonia, which is right, but like the next one on the way,
Mhm.
would be like, maybe that's for me too, because I can jump in
Got
on
it.
the way. Or someone in
Okay.
Switzerland can be like, yeah, no, I guess I could use that, even though I'm
Mhm.
pretty close to Italy already. Like that's the
Okay.
idea, that it sounds a little easier, that okay, or like Benay is in Sweden, that like, well, it's not really where I'm at, but it's
Mhm.
close enough, so I'm interested. Whereas if it
Okay.
is a very direct question, are you ready to do this transfer?
Got it.
Then it's like, well, that's not exactly it, so I guess no. And
Okay.
then it's
I see what you're
automatically
saying.
an absolute no. Yeah. But
Okay.
yeah, I love the
Okay.
words. I still think those are really good words. Fearful
Okay.
and ferocious have, like, I think there's a lot of emotion there, which is generally very good. So yeah.
Okay.
Terry, I want to put you on the spot. Can you have another go, just seeing what you can integrate? It can
Mm.
just a couple of lines.
Circle back to me because I've got to kind of think it through.
All right. Okay, we'll circle back
Okay.
to you.
Okay.
Okay, cool. I'm excited. But you need to listen too to everybody else. Okay, who wants to go next?
So I can go.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Trey.
My name is Trey Henderson, and I help you as an agile coach excel and grow in your career. And I help you do this by focusing on the agile coaching framework, specifically on professional coaching, mentoring, facilitation, and teaching.
It's basically, it follows the perfect formula. So I'm thinking, there's something missing from it. Like, it's good. It's obviously good. It follows a perfect formula. It's very good. I'm just like, there's something that's nagging me about it.
I have a
Okay.
question while you're thinking, Peter.
Yeah.
Trey, do you help agile coaches like learn the skills of coaching and teaching and mentoring, or is that
Yep.
how you help them? That's where I was a little.
So I help them grow as an agile coach by helping them gain more and practicing the skill. 4 areas: professional coaching, teaching, facilitation, and mentoring.
Okay, so you help them hone those specific skills.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Over to you, Peter.
Yes.
I think that's actually potentially the problem, that it has this. Yeah. I think that's what was bugging me, because I had the same question. Do you help them learn those things, or do you help them by doing those things with them? And one thing is that I think the outcome that you're promising is a little bit vague. I know it sounds very specific to you because you know what it means, but for someone who doesn't know what you mean by it, it still creates a question of, I wonder if he means the same thing I think it means, or if he means something else. So how did you start? You said your name and you help agile coaches do what?
Looks like Trey has frozen.
Yeah.
Yeah. We might have to circle back to Trey while he comes back to us. Let's see, Atia or Sylvie, who wants to go next? Sylvie, you're saved.
Okay, so I help chronically ill women like you go from feeling limited to living their best life ever. I teach how to organize your day despite your health's unpredictability. Plus, the unique way I've created to plan my days will help you just crush your goals, all the while learning your unique ways of dealing with your symptoms. I know it's long, but I was trying to be more specific.
Yeah, it's really good stuff. Can you, sorry, I think it cut off for like half a second when you started saying what you helped them. Just a few words there.
Just really quickly, Trey, we're going to circle back to you since you froze. We'll do that after Sylvie, okay?
Yeah.
I teach how to organize your days despite your health's unpredictability. Plus,
okay. Yeah, that was the part I didn't hear. Okay. Yeah, no, it's really good. The only thing, if you want something to improve, it's really long, which just makes it hard to use. So what I would focus on more, first of all, it's good. So you can, if there is a place where you can use such a long pitch, go ahead. But in places where you can't, or if you just want to use it as a conversation starter, then the parts that I would take away is the details on how you do it, and focus on the outcomes a little more, or like basically emphasize the outcomes by removing the other things, because that's the part that makes people say, cool, how? And then you have kind of permission to say more and like explain how you do it, because that's what they're basically asking. Whereas explaining how you do something, it doesn't invite as many follow-up questions. But like, basically it can, but like if you just say that I do this for these kinds of people, if they are that kind of people and they want that, then it's really bizarre if they don't ask you to tell more. So that's like, because you probably come up in like you have situations where you need to have a shorter so that it doesn't feel weird to use it. So then it like that's the part that I would focus on. But yeah, it's really good. The details are really good. I'm sure there's things you can polish off and so on, but it's really good.
Yeah. Well, and you've got a couple more. You've got 2 more weeks with Peter too. So,
yeah.
Sylvie, I'm just curious if you were just going to quickly just take out the how you do it and just focus on a couple of outcome statements, just to shorten it. What would you say?
Yeah. I'm having a hard time focusing on what is the outcome. So organize your days despite your health's unpredictability.
I think it might have actually, like the outcomes might have been even earlier. You help chronically ill women
go from feeling limited to living their best life ever.
That's much more like it. The only thing actually, yeah, this was something I just forgot to mention. Those are a little unspecific because your best life ever can mean so many different things. So I would like probably replace that with just something that's more specific about what you do, because someone who helps them specifically with their health could do that. Someone who, I mean, like a matchmaker could say that. There's like a tons of different kinds of like life spheres could help them do that. So it's like, that's the one, yeah, that I would change. But yeah, then I think you basically have it, because that's the only statement you need as a conversation starter. I help these kinds of people get this. And like, at least that's the format that I use, because it's the easiest to make work, because you just need to identify those 2 things. And when you get those 2, then it's good. But yeah, it's really good. But yeah, that's the one part that I would change.
Okay. Do you have any other questions, Sylvie, for next week? Or you're ready to? Yeah, you got it. Okay, cool. Now Trey's disappeared again. Welcome, Emmerich. Great to see you on the call. Atia, would you like to go? Since Trey keeps
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Okay, so hello, my name is Atia Johnson, along with my wonderful husband. We teach couples as well as singles how to have a more happy and fulfilled relationship through unique, fun, and new age strategies.
What's the difference to last week?
We deleted the word innovative
Ah,
and just restructured the words.
yeah, I forgot it was innovative last week because I was thinking I heard this word and now I got hung up on unique because it's the same as innovative. It has the exact same problem. It's like there's this list of words. I think that the third one is industry leading. Then there's world class. There's a bunch of these words that are in this like blacklist in my head that like if I hear these I'm gonna immediately bounce on it because it's like just no, don't use them. But yeah, I think it is a little better, but yeah, it still has the same problem that it doesn't give a specific idea of what is the outcome or where they are starting from. It's couples and singles, so it's everyone. Help them. Sorry, what was the next part of the sentence? You help them
Have a more happy and fulfilled relationship.
Okay, that's basically okay, but it's still quite vague. Like everyone who helps people with relationships will help them with that. Or they could say that they help them with that. I get that you probably have a very specific meaning for the word happy and fulfilled relationship, or at least in your mind when you say that or when you talk about it with each other, you know exactly what it means. But in general, fulfilling means completely different things. And if I hear or your potential customer hears you say those words, they can't really know what you mean by it. But rather it creates this, again, the same kind of confusion that, so what do you actually mean? Do we mean the same thing with it? So it's hard to say, you're like, yes, that's what I want, because it creates rather the question, I wonder, what do you mean? So yeah, I would still specify that. How early are you in the business? Like, have you had a lot of clients already?
No, so we've had like friends and family members, but not any clients. We're actually just
Yeah. So yeah, that's the kind of thing that happens a lot when you're really in the beginning of especially in service business. I think it comes up a lot. There are two things to consider. One is that you're probably thinking and feeling, at least subconsciously, that you should keep a fairly wide net so that anyone who kind of swims in is going to feel like, yeah, this should be for me. The problem with the vagueness and the wide net is that no one is going to feel like this is exactly for me. So it easily feels like, so I guess you're like counseling then, or like those other guys or that other person or that book, or it doesn't have this like, yes, this is perfect for me. This is exactly what I've wanted. So that's one thing about the vagueness, and the other, or using vague words instead of very specific ones. But I get that it's scary. It's really scary to be very specific, because then it's like, well, 99% of people won't like this. But that's kind of the point, so that there's that 1% who will be like, holy crap, like I've been looking for this. But then the other thing is, it can be hard to specify, especially early on, like what is that exact aspect of the outcome, because the outcome is happier and more fulfilling relationship. I mean, I get that it is this fairly vague thing. That's the real outcome. But the way that you do it, and probably like the clients that you're going to be going after, have a more specific idea of what's the most desirable thing for them when they think ahead. You're not trying to sell to people who already went through the thing. You're trying to sell to people who haven't even started. So when they haven't even started, what is the outcome that they want? I had, for example, one, well, not really a marriage counselor, but like a men's coach who specifically helps men, most of whom are either divorced or getting there. And the outcome that for a lot of them was that they will feel good about themselves, and they will feel like they have self-worth, and they will feel like there was a specific list of these are the things that they want before they even start start the program. For those who were still in a struggling relationship, the outcome they wanted was a better relationship. But anyway, like that's what you need to be thinking of. What is it that they want before they even start? What's the outcome that they're dreaming of? So when they're like just daydreaming of what life could be, what is the thing that they fixate on? So it could be open communication. It could be great sex. It could be intimacy. It could be romance. It could be something else. But like they probably have something more specific than fulfilling in their head. And those are the kinds of words that if you figure them out, then it becomes really strong.
Yeah, Atiya, I think you guys got some good data on this for in your A to Z diagram. Is anything coming up for you? Like in your mind when you're thinking about it?
Yeah, so a lot is coming up for us. The only thing that we had a hard time with in the beginning, we started out with just couples. And then we branched out to singles as well as couples, because what we're teaching in the program is more about understanding yourself and your partner to better be able to deal with what you're going through from understanding them. So, what we're teaching in the program was actually for singles too. So that's why we had it geared towards singles and couples. But when we did our A to Z diagram, the top 3 things was like money, sex, and kids. For, our question was, what's keeping you stuck in a unhappy relationship? And the top 3 answers was money, sex, and kids.
Just to clarify, did I misunderstand the question? Because that doesn't sound like the problem that you're there to solve. You're not there to solve why they are stuck in a relationship, right? You're there to make them want to be in the relationship, even if they're not stuck in it, right? Or sorry, did I just misunderstand the wording? Or
no, it sounds like. Can you repeat what you said? I'm sorry.
So you said that the top 3 things that are keeping them stuck in a relationship are money, sex, and kids. Mm-hmm. But you're not there to solve things that are keeping them stuck, but rather you're there to make them want to stick together, even if they're not stuck together, right?
Yes. Yeah. So, but also within that, if in the event that they're in a relationship where it's just not working, and there are 2 people who may not even be for each other, what we want to accomplish is them understanding who they are and who that person is, to be able to understand why it is that you're not working if you're not working. Yeah. So within the program, there may be some people who may break, and there may be some people who may build upon it.
Yeah. But yeah, my point was just that it's a good thing to know what's keeping them stuck, or what they feel like is keeping them stuck, but it's not an answer to what you need to promise them. But rather I would assume that most of your clients, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I assume most of your target clients are hoping to fix the marriage or be happy in the marriage. They're not really focused on, I wish we would understand each other, or ourselves and each other better, so that we know if we should stick together or not. So the wording you use in the pitch should somehow reflect what they want. I'm not saying you should mislead. So if your point isn't to fix the marriage, then don't say that you're going to fix the marriage, but rather you do need to tell them something about, you need to tell them that you can give them something they want, because it's extremely difficult to sell something people need, as if they don't want it. So that's my point, that the wording that, whatever wording you use, it just needs to be something that they want, something they can say to themselves that, hey, you're talking about what I want. You're telling you can get me there, so tell me more. Whereas now it was more about you help people with the general relationship stuff through these kinds of things, but it doesn't specify what is the outcome. So everyone can say, yeah, sounds basically pretty good, but no one's going to say, that's from me.
Can I think Peter had a really great question for you guys, Atia and Dwayne. He said, what does having a happy and fulfilled relationship mean to you guys? So I'm just curious, can you just just answer that question really quickly, and let's just see what comes out. Like, in your relationship, what makes it happy and fulfilled for you two?
So
with the go ahead.
Go ahead, Dwayne. I'm sorry.
So with the whole thing, I was listening. I just stepped outside for a couple moments, and I think that if we were to add, I mean, what do you guys think? If we were to add sex, money, and children to the pitch, would it change the dynamic of it, or like something like, "Hello, my name's Dwayne Johnson, and along with my wife Atia, we help couples and singles deal with different issues in their relationship, things like sex, money, and children," or something like that.
I don't know if you were out the time we talked about how like those are not really the outcomes; those are reasons for them to stay stuck in the relationship. That said, I think like there might be a solution here. So you could say it in the form, we help couples want to stick together, even if they're now just stuck together because of money, sex, or kids. That's already a more specific outcome. But yeah, that's still like, I'm not sure if that's the thing, because then you'd be only talking to people who feel like they're only together because they're stuck together. If you want that niche, great. Then that's your pitch, and it's a good pitch. But then
I don't think we want them to stay together if it's not going to work.
Yeah. So that's my feeling as well, that's not actually the right pitch, because it would be talking to people from a different perspective. So rather, and I would still challenge the idea of working both with singles and couples. It's okay, but it does bring up the potential issue of like neither group will feel like you're perfect for them because you're not exclusive to them. So it can work, but it can also create a little bit of this. It's harder to feel like you're perfect for me because you're not exclusively for me. But yeah, I think Benet had a great question to think of. How would you describe what is happy and fulfilling relationship? What are the words you would actually use?
So if we're talking about, I think from what Benet was asking, so if we're talking about me and Dwayne's relationship, for instance, we have a very successful and good relationship, one, because we know each other like in and out. So we pretty much know how the other would feel about something. And if one feels a certain way, we work on understanding why this person feels that way. And so that's what we want to try to get our clients to do as well. I don't know. Did that answer the question, Benet?
I think so. Yeah.
It can actually work in the pitch. Like there's a potential problem again, but how it could work is that you point out that you help people understand each other better so that they can actually work as a couple. Or you point out that like every successful couple is based on mutually understanding each other and like understanding how each other will, like the other person will feel in situations and predicting that and catering to it and so on. And you help people like get to that. Not a great wording, to be clear. But the potential downside is that it's a fairly complex thought. So you'd be basically going after fairly like, well, not smart people, but people who have thought about this fairly like deep and understand that our problems are coming from us not understanding the other person. For someone who has that, they're going to be like, please tell me more. Like, because it's no, like, well, not that I would have been looking through a lot of that kind of stuff, but I've never heard anyone say that you'd help someone learn how to understand the other person. everyone's selling, you understand yourself, and like everything from yoga to meditation to all sorts of spiritual healing, and everything is about understand yourself. But if you can teach someone to understand the other person, you'll be a billionaire. I mean, that's not, I've never seen competition there, and there are people, I assume, who recognize that as a problem. But then again, it's just a potential problem as well, because it is then narrowing down to people who already have that, I want to understand the other person. And it's then obviously it's couples or potentially singles who broke up because they didn't understand their spouse, but mostly couples.
Right. And so that was the hard part, and one of the reasons why we're having a very hard time coming up with the perfect pitch is because what we want to teach, most people don't know that they have that issue. Yeah. They don't understand that that's the issue. So we didn't know if coming up with a pitch to try to sell to somebody some issue that they don't even know they have, like, would that work? So that was the hard part of that's the hard part about coming up with a pitch. And even with coming up with a question for our A to Z diagram. So that's why you may be like it may be throwing you off, because the question for the A to Z diagram wasn't exactly what we're going to be teaching in the program. So that's why it's a little hard trying to figure that out.
Yeah. But in marketing, you are selling a transformation. You're selling that idea that we will take you from A to B. A is having a problem. B is not having that problem. That's what you're selling. What you actually do might be slightly different. It might be much better than that transformation. It might be that you take them from A to Z instead of just A to B. But whatever is that, it could be that, and this is kind of the point that I'm pretty sure you have to narrow down on some more specific problem, more specific outcome, more specific situation, more specific something, because otherwise it is, well, we are relationship people. Like it doesn't have that like specific feeling. One thing that comes to mind as like a fairly clear option is that you would help people, help couples who have trouble resolving fights or resolving, they fight a lot, or they don't feel like they understand the other person, or they don't feel understood. Like if understanding the other person is a core in what you do, then like doubling down on those problems that are obviously related to it, not all the problems that are related, but the ones that people will obviously see that, yes, that's clearly about understanding, then there isn't really any disconnect between what you sell and what they, or what you know they need and what they want. Even though by fixing that, it will fix a lot of other problems as well. But yeah, that would be one thing that I would consider, that can you focus on like the problems that are most obviously connected to not understanding the other person.
So can you guys take that, and maybe even you could post on the Facebook group. We can check that during the week, but that post. So I think Peter said, what are the problems that are specifically related to not being understanding of your partner or being understood by your partner? And just do a little bit of a brainstorming on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or more specifically, what are most obviously connected? Because most problems in a relationship are related to that, but what are in their minds, I mean, your target customers' minds, what are the most obviously connected problems? Because that could already start to help. Like, well, if we say that we can solve this problem, just this one thing, people will want to pay for it, even though we will like solve 100 other ones as well. But like you might find out that, okay, hey, well, this looks like something people should react to. But yeah, like I know it sounds really, really lousy, but I'm pretty sure you have to narrow down. I'm sorry. Like it's just going to be extremely difficult to be so vague. If you can carve out a clear niche for yourself in the beginning, you can spread out. But starting with something really vague, something wide, is like, I can't think of a single example where it would have worked. I'm sure it has, but I just can't think of a single example.
Okay.
Dwayne, do you have any questions before we move on?
Nope.
Okay. All right, it's time to move on. Trey, are you back online?
I think so.
Okay.
right.
Did you want
I
to?
have no idea what we were talking about.
Yeah, I think you're going to have to start again.
I think we were talking about how the promise was a little unclear about what is actually the outcome that you help them achieve. It seemed like it was more focused on like you will grow as an agile coach through these kinds of things. But what is the ultimate outcome? I think last week you were talking about how it makes them have like more value in the business, be more likely to stay in the business. I think those start to sound like things that are outcomes, whereas now it was more about what you help them with, not what you help them achieve. So in a question format, what do you think are the clearest outcomes that you help them achieve?
All right.
So it's around trying to help them gain more skills and more practice as an agile coach.
For
So
what
I'm
purpose?
helping-
Okay. Is there any specific outcomes beyond be a better coach? I mean, what does that lead to? That's my question.
Yes. Another one is network with other agile coaches so they can expand and grow their career.
Okay. So are you basically helping them move forward in their career?
Yes.
Okay. And do you do it specifically through helping them be better at the job, or do you do other things as well?
So I help them grow by becoming better at the job that they do.
Okay. So beyond that, you don't actually help them with career advice or interviews or like those kinds of things. It's just like you teach them how to be better at their job, right? I'm just clarifying.
Yes.
All right.
Correct.
Okay. So why do they want to be better at their job?
They sometimes struggle because clients don't necessarily know the true value of an agile coach. And so sometimes they're the first ones to go if there's any kind of budget cuts.
Okay. So is it actually that you help them make it like create value that's clearer for the clients? So like the outcome that you help them achieve is that their value is clearer for their clients.
Yeah, I help agile coaches create a better value proposition for themselves to support their clients.
Now I got lost. Sorry. You help them create a better value proposition to support their clients.
Yes.
Okay. Can you use some other words than value proposition? Because that's a word that I use in a very different way. So.
Okay.
And Wikipedia uses it in a third way, but yeah, just some other way. Yeah.
So help them create more value, be more effective.
Okay. I would guess that as soon as we go away from their client's perspective, we start to get to the side of you just help them be better. And it's valuable to be better, but people very rarely associate any like very significant value to being better, except top athletes. In every other case, it's usually that there's a more specific problem that they want to solve. And in your case, it sounds like your client's problem is that they have a hard time making their clients see that they are really valuable.
Yeah.
So that's the outcome that you actually sell, because being better is just a vehicle to something that's truly valuable, truly desirable for them. Or not, like obviously it's valuable to be better, but like that's the outcome of being better that they are probably willing to pay for. At least that's my assumption.
Yeah. So how to become more valuable to your clients.
Yeah, and specifically how to make your clients see that you're super valuable.
Hmm. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
How to help your client see the value you bring as an agile coach.
Yeah. Like you can find fancier words that can make it quite a lot. Like it can make a big difference. You can say like, again, I should never come up with examples on the like off the cuff like this, but you can make your clients see you as invaluable or irreplaceable, or I'll show you how as an agile coach you can make your clients see that they can't replace you or they should never find another coach. Or I mean, like, but that to me sounds like at least the first option of what is a very clear outcome that that people will probably be happy to pay for, because there's such obvious dollar value assigned to it as well. Because if they can't be replaced, they are like, I mean, obviously they can be replaced, but like that, if that's the basic idea that your clients will stick with you X more years, then that means X more dollars, and it's easy to pay for that. But yeah, that's my main point, that just saying that you'll be a better coach doesn't probably interest too many people. But if it is, like I'll show you how to make your clients think that you're so valuable that there's no point in ever firing you, then that's that's much more concrete, much clearer. Like, okay, I see the value.
So I definitely like that. So I'll see if I can incorporate that in there, because I definitely see the difference between talking about value to the client versus, okay, becoming a better coach.
Yeah. And
Okay,
from the short pitch, I would just skip the how you do it part and rather just stick to the outcome.
Okay.
Yeah.
We got to move on. Okay, we've got Emmerich and Jay on the call, so let's quickly get to them. Guys, you got 3 minutes each, okay? So Emmerich, would you like to start? Welcome. Good to see you.
Hi.
Hello. Hi. Nice to be here. Great. Okay, so once again, so I'm just restating my...
your elevator pitch. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so it's gone through different iterations. But this is one that I've kind of gone back to now is, so I help students design and build their life so they can excel at school and live an extraordinary life. Okay, so that's the extended version with the one-on-one coaching. The other version is, so I help students design and build their life using one-on-one coaching.
What students? Yeah. Are you talking to university students or?
No, there'd be elementary and high school students.
How do you sell it? Do you sell it through their parents or?
It'd be through the parents, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so initially, and this is with the help of Benet, or it was I help students excel at school and get ready for the next stage in their life. That kind of got me thinking, and I sort of changed it to that. But then I'm realizing that there is a niche where there are parents in like the alternative education space that are not looking for coaches to help their kid with school stuff. They're looking for something different, and which is specifically what I'm trying to teach, which is more about helping their kids sort of really build their life, right? That's in a different way than what the school system is offering.
Yeah.
So that's what I would want to cater to, as opposed to try to help the students in the current school system.
That's exciting, by the way, just to be targeting parents of alternative education parents. I like it.
Yeah.
Now I'm losing track of thought. Yeah, so the main point is that since you're selling for the parents, what is the outcome that the parents want? If they are, do you think that their kids are specifically in something else than the traditional school system already, or are they still in the traditional school system?
So yes, I'd be targeting students that are, let's say, at Waldorf or even like homeschooling, or if I've noticed that there's a lot of different groups that different forms of education that are out there that aren't your standard education system. And so these are the parents that a lot of parents they don't even want to put their kids in the school system because they just don't agree with it, and they're looking for other solutions. And so cater to those parents who are looking for a solution that's not necessarily out there.
Okay, so let's say I'm the parent and I already homeschool my kid. What do you then provide that I wouldn't believe that I'm providing?
Right. So I provide tools and systems to help their kid to design and build their life.
Okay, what does it mean to design and build the life?
Yeah, so it's design is just getting a lot more clarity on what it is that they want out of life, what they choose to experience. So I have a whole narrative called The Game of Life, and it's all about helping people improve at the game of life. And so for students, it would really come down to the basics. So what does that mean to play the game? What is the game all about? How do you play the game of life? Right? And it's guiding the students through all of that.
Okay. Why I started ask this line of questioning is that if they are already the kind of person who has taken their kid out of the traditional schooling and put them into something alternative, it probably means that they already thought that, well, I found something that is better than the traditional. And I would assume that the primary reason for someone to think that is that those alternatives will give more tools for the kid to succeed in life. At least I don't know too much about that world, but that's my experience of what little I have seen, that the parents specifically do homeschooling, use the others schooling systems because those supposedly help kids have a better life. So just saying that you help them do that, it needs to get more specific for it to feel like the targeting makes sense. Like the way that you initially said, it sounded like that would be perfect for people who have kids in the traditional schooling system but don't really like it, or they think that, well, the kids are going to miss something if they are in the traditional schooling system. So there was this mismatch of you either target the parents of kids who are in the traditional with what you originally said, or you have to get more specific about what is the extra value you bring on top of the untraditional schooling system that their kids are already in. When you started saying that you help them design their life and what that actually means, think of what do they want, and I presume it means you help them even though they're super young at that point, no way of knowing what they really want from life, but I assume you give them generally guide them towards the kinds of decisions that are most likely to lead to actually something good in the end, regardless of what it is that they in the end want. I assume, I might be wrong, but anyway.
Yes. That's the biggest thing is I gave them a framework for how to sort of manage their life. So then they start to become more responsible, right? They start to become more aware that, hey, I'm in the driver's seat of my life, and it's up to me to sort of start building this life puzzle of mine, right?
Okay, now I think you're onto something.
Okay, we've got 1 minute left, so let's wrap it up.
But that's, I think, something if you can tell a parent that I can show your kids how to feel in control of your life, so they start taking it seriously and really thinking through their choices. Now I'll shower you with money. That is a very clear promise that I don't have kids, but I assume most parents would be happy to pay for. There's parents here. How many of you would be if I would have been able to pay for someone to give my children make them really take life seriously and think of their choices, not enjoy it any less, but really think their choices through. I assume you'd all be at least interested. So I think that's the specific enough thing.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I think, and then just add that, show kids how to take life seriously and think of choices, but also have fun.
Yeah, because it can easily start to sound like I'm just going to be there with a whip. Nope.
Yeah. And I think there's real, for me, I am an alternative education parent. Personally, my daughter, she goes to schools, but Montessori and other alternative ones she's been to. And I think that's That's great. And to have an outside person that she could interact with that I trust would be really important, so that it's not just me. That would also be another thing. Okay, anyway, we got to take this offline. If anybody else wants feedback on your pitch, I do encourage you, while we've got Peter for the next 2.5 weeks, to write it up, put it in the Facebook page. He's now in the Facebook group, so you can tag him in there, and he'll come in and give you some direct advice. Those of you who did do your homework with your questions and posted those in there, I hope you got some value from the feedback there. There were some brilliant questions. I was super happy with those of you who took the time to do that. Okay, Terry, we don't have time to circle back to you, so you lucked out. We'll hear you next week. Let's go ahead and do a quick recap and see if there's any questions about last week's lesson, which was coming up with your topics for your funnel, and then we'll get straight into lesson 15. And they might merge together. If that happens, that's fine too. Anybody have any? Let's just have a show of hands. Does everybody have did you write your questions from lesson 15, not 14? Yeah. Terry did hers, Tia and Dwayne. And Merrick, how did you go with your questions?
No.
Do you have any questions about the coming up with your questions? Or are you happy just to listen and see what everybody else has come up with?
For now, I did look at a lesson. I did go watch the video, but I'm happy to listen and see what other people have now. I haven't had a chance to really write down the questions, unfortunately.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions about that lesson before we move on and talk about the Friday lesson? Atia.
So one question I had on the lesson was, how can we give them all of the tidbits within the email without giving them what we're going to be doing in the program?
Okay, so Atia's jumping ahead now to actual
lesson. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fine. It might be that we're already. I don't think does anybody have any questions about just writing the questions before we move? Okay, let's go ahead and proceed then, Atia.
Yeah, so does it feel like, I assume you refer to the second, third, fifth, and sixth emails, the ones about questions. Okay. Yeah, I get your point. So what to focus on, this might not be enough, but like what to focus on is that you tell them what to do, what to achieve, basically. You don't tell them how to do it. So it's kind of like I would tell you, you need to build a funnel that does X, Y, and Z. Your natural next question is, well, sounds great, but how? Like, that's the idea in general. And I do know that doesn't necessarily answer the question you had. So in some cases, just giving, like, this might be a general situation. So I'll tell you, even if this isn't for you, but like in general, if it feels like just telling them what is enough for them to know how, then it's not a complex enough question, most likely. So if it feels like you can't tell them what they're supposed to do without them automatically understanding how to do it, then yeah, like you should probably have a more complex question.
Can you give an example of that? I'm a little bit...
Well, ask me a question about marketing, just anything. It's much easier that way. Okay. If the question would be...
How do you sell a workbook without spending any time of your own time doing it? Completely automate it. Or how do you sell an information product?
Okay. No, that was good. Okay, so how to sell something without using any of your own time. Go to a directory, find a company that does completely automated marketing for you. Like, sure, there's details, but the person reading that will feel like, okay, thanks, now I know. Like, that would be the kind of answer that automatically gives them the how, at least enough for them to feel like they know how. There might be nuances, there might be details that they don't know about, and therefore they will get bad results. But if they believe that they understand the how, then it was like either the answer was too direct or like you need to reframe it, and that's generally harder. That's why I'm saying that better to just come up with a more complex question.
Atia, do you guys have an example of what's one of the questions you've actually written an email about? Because I'm assuming you asked this question for a reason.
We haven't written any emails, but when I was looking at the lesson, I was just like, how can we do that without telling them what we're going to be doing within the program? So,
Yeah.
but we haven't done any actual emails yet.
Okay.
Yeah. The problem is, it's actually totally fine if you tell them that we're like, this is what you need to do. And by the way, that's something we do during this program. As long as you telling them what you'll do doesn't make them feel like, well, now I know how to do it, so I don't need you.
Okay.
So if let's say, just as an example, let's say you would have an exercise where they, like the couple describes the other person. I don't know. If you would tell them that we have an exercise where both partners describe the other person with 5 adjectives, that would probably make the reader feel like, well, I kind of get what I need to do now, or like it
Right.
diminishes the value. But if you describe the same exact thing by telling you have an exercise where you tell the other person you really like, you like the partners get to understand how the other person sees them, really. That's like, okay, I'm intrigued, but I have no idea how to do that. Or
Right.
I might have a guess of how I could do that, but you probably have a better way anyway, because you're the professional. So
Okay.
by basically making it, focusing more on the what outcome they need to achieve instead of what they actually do is often the solution there. So
Okay.
instead of telling you're like the adjective description thing, you say what outcome, make the other person understand how they are seen in the relationship.
Got it.
That would be the like one solution to it. Yeah.
Great question, Atia. Who else has a question about lesson 15? Sylvie.
Okay, so I love the sequence, the email sequence, but I feel like we have only the what to do and not the how to do it. Because I'm looking at this description of what the email is supposed to be like, but I don't know how I'm supposed to make mine look that way. Are we going to get any examples that would go with these?
Have you tried to write one of?
Yeah, sure. I started with the welcome one.
Okay.
I had already worked on it before, so I kind of just used what I had and tried to make it fit with what you suggested.
Yep.
And that one was the easiest because all the copywriting was done, but I feel like if I was to write the way you just stated it in the description, it wouldn't sound at all like what I wrote before. And what I wrote before is all I want my emails to be, like energetic and light and fun. And when I just read what I'm supposed to do, like describe the problem, mention the basic reason, it's like very dry to me. It sounds very dry to me.
Okay. There's a reason why there are no examples, because I don't want to guide the style of writing. Because in my experience, you can write these same, like I've used these same with many, many clients who have completely different sounding, like writing voice. So I get your point, though. I do understand. So, or at least I think I do understand. So if it feels like this would be dry, then think about it more as if I would actually be there with a recorder and say, how would you describe your target customer's problem related to this? And like just in your words, what would be kind of your way of describing it? It can be light and energetic and whatever you feel like it is, or however you want to describe it, but just describe their problem. Like it doesn't need to be dry. It can be quite dry and still work, but it's better if it's not. But yeah, that's the like, think like you can use a lot of words if it feels natural for you, or you can use very short, like very, very few words if that's the way you generally write. But if you just think of it as, okay, so the first thing I need to do is just write about their current problem. Okay, let's see what happens. Okay, next thing I need to describe the basic reason for it. Well, I guess this is how I would write it. Like that's, I do understand that it can feel really tricky to, because I assume you've previously written without a specific structure in mind. At least I guess so.
No, there was a structure, but
Okay.
we were encouraged to, do real copywriting and not have it be engaging, and those kind of terms were used more than there was what's supposed to be in there, but there was also a lot about how engaging it is and what is our voice and what we want our readers to feel. So I'm kind of missing all of that in here.
Yeah. I didn't put any of that there because teaching how to invoke specific feelings is a much more advanced thing. The email copywriting courses that I've seen are very much about this is the structure. Or they don't generally use this structure. They use much more difficult to use structures, but they do focus on the structures. It's only the very big copywriting courses that go into these are the ways to invoke specific feelings, because then you need to first think of, well, what are the most effective feelings to invoke and how you do it and what fits into email. And like it's a much more complex thing, but you can use all of that. If you know how to do that, great, like wonderful. But the structure is just there to make sure that the things that will make it effective, from the very basic idea of what makes it effective, what makes people say at the end, I want more. I want to click this link and I want to get your help and I want to just give me more. This is awesome. Like you're clearly talking to me. That's the structure. What makes them feel like I can relate to you and like you're exactly the kind of person I want to work with. That's more the style. And realistically, first of all, I'm not a writing teacher, so I don't know if I could even realistically teach you to have a perfect writing voice. But that's just way out of the scope of this kind of training in any case. So that's really my point, that if you just go through the structure in the way that you feel comfortable writing, that's perfect. But just generally start with the description of their problem, just whatever way for you. Generally I start by saying that one client said this thing, or someone sent me an email and said this, or I often hear from people and they talk about how they have this problem. I go very straight to the point. That's just how I would generally write. Another way that I could use, I less often use it because it's harder for me, but I might use it as, here's a story. Have you had this kind of a morning? Or don't we all entrepreneurs have these kinds of mornings, and then talk about the morning and the problem of that morning, and then what next happens and so on. But those are just my ways of doing it, but it would still be the same structure. I would still be starting with the problem.
Can I read you what I wrote for the question about their problem? The second email, just the beginning.
Sure.
Okay, so I wrote, Dear, whatever, Angela, it's no secret that planning our day or week or even our goals is much more difficult with a chronic illness. Whether you can't work for a few hours because of brain fog, or you are in a major flare and can't work at all, one thing is for sure, planning the traditional way doesn't work for us. It comes down to learning how to plan our days differently. If you haven't yet, watch my 3-part series on how to plan your day, the Spoony Lady Boss Way. Once you've watched, come over to the blog, and that's where I was.
Yeah, you started with a good description of the problem. Yeah. No problem. No problem with how you did it. Yeah.
And that definitely comes across as how you come across in your videos too, I would say. I'd just like to add to that, I've used, these sort of, I call them, they're prompts. They're little catchphrases to sort of help you write the chunks of your text. And then once you write them all, then you can kind of stream them together. And usually you don't want to, Peter, correct me if I'm wrong, but you don't really want to reorder them because they're in that order for a reason. But you have to sort of play with it a bit and massage them. I kind of think of it as a sculpture. You're always kind of, you follow the prompts, answer everything, and then you might have to make some connectors and stuff like that, or add in some headers just to break it up and make it more readable.
Yes, you can use the same structure and write a 300-word email, or you can use the same structure and write a 2,000-word article or 20,000-word book. So it is just that go through these topics in this order is kind of all it's trying to give. It's kind of like saying that, well, a human has a head at the top, then there's shoulders, hands coming out of that, and there's a torso, like waist and feet. There's a lot of different kinds of humans, but like that is the general structure. So it's like that's all it's trying to tell. Like it's the skeleton behind the writing, not at all how you actually write it.
I guess it's hard for me to see it that way. I don't know. It's hard for me to go through these and write just part of it and then put them together. I guess my brain doesn't work that way.
Yeah, I do understand. People sometimes have that like somehow the structure doesn't feel natural. But in general, at least so far with all my like private clients, it has been that after getting one right, then it's easy because they've kind of once figured out, oh, right, okay, so this is how it works. Now I get it like from my perspective. Now I know how I can write it. And it sounds like for you, it's natural to write from the perspective of kind of us. We experience these kinds of things. And so, for example, it could be, we experience this kind of problem, and it's easy to think that it's because of X. But I've come to realize that it's much more about Y and Z. And sometimes when people realize those things, they try to solve them by A, B, and C. But those don't generally create good results, as you probably know. So here's how I've actually ended up solving X. So like it is, the structure is still there, but it's, yeah. But believe me, most people, at least if they get one down, then it's much easier because it's once been like your brain somehow figures out that, okay, this is how I write these, like using this structure. I was contemplating on having more different structures to offer, but then I just said, okay, let's, if you can figure out one, that's great. There's already several different structures with the case study and all that. But yeah, I don't have a lot of other things to offer. Examples sound like they would be good, but I'm afraid that it would be more confusing than anything else because the structure rarely is super obvious in the email in the end.
I would agree with that too. Sylvie, how can we support you though going forward? Because I know that, I mean, we want you to get these emails done, like posting the text in the Facebook group or getting a review or even a strategy session. What could help you?
Yeah, no, I'm willing to post them in the Facebook group and get feedback. The thing that I did before with the welcome email, actually having example really helped me out, but that's just me. And it wasn't done, and the example weren't exactly like the structure that I was proposed, but I could see where it fitted, and that really helped me. But it's just me, so I'm probably gonna look online to find some examples because I really feel it's really something that I need to get started. But yeah, no, I can post them online and get your feedback to see if it's okay, if it's good.
Okay.
Yep,
okay. Well,
sure.
let's do that. Let's do that. And Peter, if you change your mind about examples and you feel like posting something, let us know. Sure. All right. Who else has got a question about the lesson? Atia.
So forgive me, Peter, because we've never done this before. Are we, and this may seem like a really dumb question, but are the emails being sent through MailChimp? Like, so I have two questions. That's the first one. So how are these emails being sent? We have a MailChimp account.
Then you'd set up an autoresponder, or I think it's called autoresponder in MailChimp, or it might be called automatic sequence, or I don't remember what word they use in MailChimp. I can check it for you though if that's the problem. But that's.
And then, okay, so then the other question is.
Hold on,
sorry.
Before we do that, so but we are the last lesson with you, Peter, is all about setup, isn't it?
Well, yes, but there's very little of it because you all use different tools. So it's
Okay. I just
very
wanted.
general sense on this side of things. There's very, very little of it because yeah.
Okay, but I guess from a perspective of you guys and keeping up and getting your sales funnel done, this week really is all about writing it, like just writing it in a Word document. You don't need to put it in MailChimp. You don't need to do anything like that. I just wanted to clarify that. And also, I know Terry had a question on the Facebook group about what software to use for this too. So I'm glad you raised it.
Yeah. It's called Campaign, I think, but it's you set up like it's this. I think you can start with a user onboarding campaign or something and just modify those emails. But yeah, like I don't use MailChimp, so I don't remember the exact steps there. But yeah.
What was
the second question? Sorry.
The second question was just how do we send these emails on automation if there are people coming in at different times? Like, or are we sending these emails out at one time to the masses?
No. So these are automated in the sense that in MailChimp, you set it up so that whenever someone joins your email list through that specific form, which is on the landing page, which is in the next lesson, then they automatically get the first email immediately, the second email 1 day later, third email 1 day later, and so on. So regardless of when someone joins, they will automatically get them at those same intervals.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So the whole entire email setup is set up on automation, not just the first welcome email.
Yeah, all of them are automatic. So whenever someone joins, they will get those emails in that same order and at those same intervals.
Got it. Okay.
Okay. And I was just reading in the chat, and Terry had to give her apologies. She has a meeting, and Emmerich also has a meeting. So that's why we're down to the we're down to you guys. Okay. Let's see. So nobody's touched on the lead magnet itself yet. So I would love to hear what you guys have come up with for your lead magnet. How's that going?
I just wrote in the email, insert here, awesome opt-in.
Okay. So we might want to talk about lead magnets. Atia, where are you guys sitting with your opt-in or your lead magnet or your freebie, whatever you want to call it?
Yeah, I'm actually lost about that whole thing. Like, I don't know the difference between an opt-in, between a lead magnet. Like, I don't know if they're the same thing. So I'm actually lost on that entire thing.
Yeah. This is not the first time this comes up this week. This comes up all the time. Lead magnet, freebie, opt-in offer, ethical bribe. There's so many different words for the same exact thing.
Okay.
Yeah. In the next lesson, the one that I think you get on Friday, right? There, even on one of the slides, I have like freebie / lead magnet but yeah, it's the same thing.
Many words to describe it. It's basically a carrot to get people on your list so that they can start getting this email sequence. The second they give you their name, they get the thing, and then they're on the email campaign, and then every a week or so they get a new email from you that slowly gets them really interested in your signature program. That's what we're building.
Okay. So we came up with what we're going to give, and I don't know if it works or not, but this was actually before we started the program. We were going to give like a astrology workbook, because in our program, astrology is one of the things that we go over and understanding your mate. So we were going to give that as a freebie, but I don't know if that works or if that's something that makes people like want to rush to it or not.
So first of all, if you talk about astrology in a lead magnet, then it automatically disqualifies anyone who doesn't believe in astrology.
Right.
If you're okay with that, then great. I would also make it more specific. By the way, just to be clear, there are many different ways to make a good lead magnet. This is not the one that I suggested in the lesson, but it's fine. So you could have a astrology for couples book or something, and that could work well. or
Okay.
astrology for romance, or something like that. But I would make it more specific than just astrology, because then you'll attract anyone who's interested in it.
Okay.
Plus, people who are interested in that have probably read 100 different things about it. So
Yeah.
it's like, make it more specific so that they don't look at it and be like, well, I've probably read that. But
Okay.
rather like, oh, there's a unique approach to this.
Okay. And so is that something that should be, so on our website, there should be like a tab that says, click here if you want to get our free workbook on astrology and dealing with romance. Is that how that would work, or?
More or less, yes. So in the next lesson, we'll look at the pages you actually need for the funnel. So there will be what's called a landing page. So it's the page where you specifically direct people to, so that they land on that page on your website. So through advertising, you direct people straight to the page, and that page has nothing else than just the offer to download that lead magnet.
Okay.
The navigation links. It's just like either you download this or you go away. Like those are the options basically. So elsewhere on your website, there's many different ways you can do things. The simplest good option is that you just link to that same page from everywhere and like just try to direct people there, because that's where the funnel starts, and that's hopefully going to work very well. So if you get people to that page, you're golden. But yeah. The only thing that I would be a little worried about the topic still is that since it doesn't promise any specific outcome and it doesn't even solve any specific problem, it can be a little tough to make people want it. But if you make the topic very specific, then people who are interested in that specific topic will want it. But it's still a little like I would try to make it more specific about what problem it solves.
Okay.
So at least consider the options that I went through in the lesson, because they are more secure.
Which ones are you speaking of?
So the lead magnet could either be about a topic that's like a question that has an answer that is the entire process you go through, or a question where the answer is one of the first steps in your process. It's a tongue twister. I said it's wrong, probably. So two options. The lead magnet's topic, it's always an answer to a question. And it can either be a question where the answer is your full process. And then the lead magnet basically gives them an overview of what happens in your program and makes them believe that, hey, if I would go through these steps with your guidance, I would solve this problem. So it could be that the problem is on a very general level, like how to create a happy marriage. I mean, don't have that because it's super vague, but like on that level, the answer would be your program. The alternative would be some much more specific thing where the first steps of your progress or your program are the answer. So how to, I don't know, feel more open with your spouse. Perhaps the first thing you do in your course would already be the answer to that. Or, but yeah, having it answer a specific problem that people are already like, or a specific question that people are already asking is just the safest way to go. Because if you're asking a question in your mind every day, a few times a day, then once you see someone promising the answer, you will listen. Like, even if it's kind of inconvenient, you will still probably listen. You will click the ad to find out if hopefully you would finally get the answer to that question that you've asked 100 times.
In what's coming up for me right now, Attia, is in Peter's lesson, he talks about, the idea where the answer to the question is actually the structure of your program. It immediately made me think of you have a triangle, don't you and Dwayne?
Yes.
Yeah. So like your triangle's the answer. So you have to work backwards and say, okay, what's the question? Am I making any sense? Can you see how maybe you could exist now?
You lost me, Benet. I'm sorry.
Give Peter your triangle diagram, your napkin.
Okay. So our triangle diagram is man in the mirror, communication, strategy sessions. So strategy sessions around sex, money, and children.
So that's the program in a nutshell. Like if they were going to draw it on a coffee napkin and saying, what do they teach? That's how they kind of break it up.
Okay, say again, what were the first two?
So the first one is man in the mirror. The second one is
in a mirror.
man in the mirror. Yes.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Um, second one is communication.
Okay.
And then
Strategy.
So question, like there's so many options, but like you listed a lot of those questions in Facebook, right? Yeah.
yes.
Those were fine. Like almost all of those would work. But a question could be, how could I have a better marriage? Your process would be the answer. You'd have to explain it a little more because those words on their own wouldn't give me a reason to believe anything because I wouldn't understand any of it. Or, well, I would guess that I understand, but I wouldn't be sure. But let's say a question could be...
I'm just going up to Facebook to
Sorry?
find some more questions, just so we've got some real data. Okay, here we go. It's loading. Okay, there's Terry. Atia. Okay, how will I know if I'm in a dead-end relationship? How can I learn how to communicate effectively with my partner? How can we discuss sex within the relationship?
Okay, let's take the
without
second one.
offending
How
each
can
other?
I learn to communicate effectively? I assume your process solves that.
Yeah, the communication.
Yeah. So then the ebook or the PDF could be like, here's how you learn to communicate openly with your spouse or with your partner. And then the contents of it would be to basically, on a very broad level, go through the process and explain why it works. Not how it works, but why it works. So at the end of it, the reader will be like, yeah, I believe that if I go through these steps with you, you will solve this problem for me. Therefore, I should hire you because I want to solve this problem.
Okay. So can you repeat that? You said the answer should be...
So the process is the answer. So if you go through what the process is and why it works, then I, as the reader, have a reason to believe that your progress works because you just explained why it works. And if you explain it well enough, then I understood it, then I want to hire you because I just believe that you can solve the problem for me.
Okay.
So in your situation, you guys are, what is your process under the communication component? What are the main things you're teaching if you sort of take it down a level?
So we go over communication as far as new age communication. So text messaging, emailing, DMing, and all of those new age ways of communicating. We go through exactly when each one should be used. And when it shouldn't be used. And we go through like what are they good for and purpose of them and things of that sort.
We also go over verbal, nonverbal communication, just all facets of communication, basically.
Verbal and nonverbal. Okay, so you've got sort of new age in that it's written communication through. I'm like missing the word there, but I get what you mean. Text messaging and emails and stuff. And then you've got verbal communication, and I guess you've got body language. So there's 3 components there. So using this as an example, Peter, regardless of whether or not you agree if you know it's the right content or not, how would you talk about why it works and not how it works? So you don't explain how you should send an appropriate, loving text message and when and all that, but you say, understanding this sort of modern technology and when to communicate is essential, and you'd go into the why that's important.
Yes, I guess. You could, for example, point out that like in this module of like our process or progress or program, you learn how to use different methods of communication in a way that your spouse can appreciate and feel understood, so that you know you are understood and they are understood, because you know how to do all these things right.
Yeah. So, but what I want to understand is what is that giving the person, because they've come here.
It doesn't give them anything at all of practical value.
Okay.
It gives them what they need to do, so that they will get to the end result they want.
Okay.
Or so even more specifically, it tells them how you will take them from where they are to where they want to get to.
Yeah.
So the idea, like, sure, there should be practical value. I'm not saying there isn't, but just if you think of it from the perspective, that's not the goal. The goal is primarily to make them understand why this works, so that they believe it works, so that they want to hire us. Then you're on the right track. And the practical value will just sip in. Like if you know what you're doing, you will just naturally put things in there that are valuable to read. But it's like you don't need to think of it from that perspective. It is much more about if you tell them what they need to achieve with something. So with this module, you will achieve understanding what method of communication to use in different contexts so that it's understood and appreciated and so on. That sounds great, but it doesn't tell me how to do any of that. It just tells me that you apparently, at least you're saying, implying that you know how to do it, and that you're implying that you could teach me how to do it.
Yeah. So I'm just conscious of the time. Atia, I just want to check in with you. How is that sitting with you? And Dwayne, you can both pitch in.
So I'm getting it. And then I'm just also thinking of other people who, like, for instance, with you, I think when we went to your lead magnet, I think one of the things we got was like the Pathfinder program workbook, I think. Mm-hmm. And that was actually very beneficial to me, because it was actually something that we could do. It was a tangible item that, you know, we could work with and work on ourselves with and everything. So that's why I was getting a little confused, because I'm like, should it be something like that? Or should it be just like what Peter is kind of explaining it? So, yeah. But I understand it and I get it, but I just, you know, it's getting lost because I've seen examples of something different.
Okay, so I'd like to talk to that, because that funnel that you've opted into is for a much bigger business, and it's for selling templates. It's not to get you into a call to get onto my signature program.
Okay. If
I was going to design that funnel, which I'm in the process of doing now, it would be like this.
Okay.
More targeted, because that one's more broad. Hey, we're Universal Coaching Systems. We're amazing. We have all these great tools. We help coaches do amazing things. We're really generous. It's a really different strategy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And as I mentioned previously, there are many ways to do great lead magnets.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you look at mine, they are all quite different from, well, not all, but like there are different kinds, and some are ridiculously valuable. Like there's like an absurd amount of practical value there, whereas others are really not so much. It's much more about like, this is what you should do, not at all how. So it's both can work. There are many ways you can do it, but the reason why I chose the option that I am describing in the lesson and now is that it's the most, like it's the easiest to do, so that it has a high likelihood of working well.
Okay.
So can I just like to sort of recap some of the, because you've got a good workshop here. So we took one of your questions, which is how can I be more understood by my partner? And then we've identified that from your signature program and your napkin diagram, you could specifically say, well, you know, to be really understood, you really need to become a master of this new age communications and technology, and your verbal communication, you need to understand that in a different way. And you need to start reading nonverbal communication, and then a little blurb about why each of those is important. And then that's kind of a complete freebie. You haven't said this is how you do it, and this is when you send text message. Like you haven't gone into detail, but you've made it compelling, and you've given them an answer like, oh wow, okay, I really don't know how to do any of that stuff. I need to work with these guys.
Okay.
Have I anything you want to add to that or correct, Peter?
No, that's about it.
Okay. I mean, and you guys may not choose to go with that question, you might choose another one. But you sort of break down a piece of your program, and then blame the why, not the details of how.
Okay, got it.
Can you guys work with that?
Yes.
You got some homework. Now on Friday. Okay, Sylvie, let's quickly, we've got a couple of minutes left. Let's talk about your lead magnet or opt-in or freebie, whatever you want to call it.
I was thinking, it's just a question, but I was thinking, why could a quiz be used as a lead magnet? Like what I wrote is find out what are your strengths and how to use them to cope with your symptoms.
Yeah. Yep, it can. Yep.
These are really popular ones.
And you wrote that the topic of the opt-in was like more important than the content. I was surprised by that. Do you mean like the title of it is more important than what we put in it?
It's the copywriting perspective, or like I started out as a copywriter, so I look at things from that perspective. And the basic truth of copywriting is that if your headline doesn't make people read the next sentence, it doesn't matter what the next sentence is. You could promise people $1 million instantly if they click a button, and no one will click the button if the first headline doesn't make them read forward. So if your topic isn't great, it doesn't matter how amazing the rest of it is. And generally, when I talk to people who are not professional marketers, they are much more concerned about the content, not about the topic. They much rather spend time on perfecting the content, giving out an amazing value and all that. So I'm kind of counterbalancing it by saying that like it's much more important to get the topic right, because otherwise I'm afraid that it might go to deaf ears on some people who are much more concerned about like giving the amazing value. Give amazing value, yes, but it does. No one cares if no one reads. So the topic has to be one that like it has to be really good. The content doesn't have to be great for you to get clients. It's very good if it's great, but it's not an absolute necessity. That's
So
what I mean by it.
What is your great topic, Sylvie?
My first opt-in was my daily planner that I use and that I made video on how to use, and that works pretty well. But I'm trying to find something else actually to put, but I haven't worked on it yet. Actually.
Yeah, that kind of thing can work. The problem with the like any template or planner or those kinds of things in general is that it's too easy for people to just get it and leave. I don't mean that they necessarily leave the website or leave the email list or anything, but mentally they can be like, well, I got it. Great. It doesn't create more desire for something more. It doesn't like build the value of getting something more from you. It works as great proof that you can provide something of value, but it doesn't really make people think about what else they could get from you. The quiz is kind of similar, that it can be really interesting. It can spread virally and it can have a lot of beneficial things, but unless you're very good at building it, which you might be, but most people aren't, but like you have to be really sneaky about how you ask the questions and what kind of answers you give, so that while creating an interesting quiz, you're also building up the value of what you can sell and making people feel like, okay, I want to take the next step, without at all feeling like you sold them anything. Because as soon as they feel like the answers or the questions are trying to sell them something, they will stop answering. So that part is really hard in quizzes. That's why I didn't suggest making a lead magnet quiz. There are plenty of other options, but like this is kind of why I suggest the simple question answer format, because it's the easiest to make effective. But if you're good with a quiz, go with a quiz.
No, but I'm looking at my questions and it's kind of hard for me to see which one would be turned into something that the title would be amazing and people will click on that because of what I wrote. I am not a copywriter and I don't write easily. It takes me a long time to write like an email like this with a structure. It takes me a long time to write.
It takes me a long time too, and I've been doing it for years to get a good one. So you're in good company, Sylvie. Like that's a story that you can choose to let go of, just so you know.
but finding a great title and all of that, what people want.
Well, you've got a good team to help you with that though. So like you're totally spot on. Your questions are great. You're doing amazing work. Just keep taking action, keep just writing. Like you're gonna get there, and you've got a lot of good support. So it's just right now, it's really about just getting it out there. And while we've got the support team here to say yes, try this. Like, and whatever we do is never going to be perfect. This is always an iterative process. It can always be fine-tuned. This is our first funnel in a lot of cases in this group, and it's okay. Like we don't have to get it absolutely, perfect. It's not possible anyway. So just coming
As
back
a
to
quick note, just to make this very practical. So one of your questions that you listed is,
I wanted to do.
I get tired easily. Can I start my own business? If we turn that into, I have a chronic illness, can I start my own business? Or I have a chronic illness, how can I start my own business? Now you have a lead magnet.
Yeah.
Because then you can most likely, I mean, I'm guessing, but I assume that your process would then basically enable them to deal with having their own business, even though they have a chronic illness.
Yeah.
So that would be one.
If you come back to your diagram, Sylvie, what is it? Would you sort of briefly explain your main pillars, or would you want to go into detail about one of them and explain the why? Like we were kind of just deconstructing with Dwayne and Atia.
Well, my main pillars are exactly what I say in my elevator pitch. It's all about managing your time, setting planning and reaching your goals, and then coping with your symptoms while all of this is going on. So that's what I teach. It's those three things.
So Peter, what is your
Well, I think all of those together enable someone with a serious chronic illness to have a business. So then the answer to the question, I have a chronic illness, how can I start a business, is to figure out all those three things. So then the lead magnet would just generally describe, hey, you need to get these things right. Not the how to get them right, but this is why you need to get these things right. And that's it.
You could write that in your sleep.
Yeah.
Okay, it might take a while.
But short. Yeah.
So, and in your lesson, Peter, I mean, you suggested that a lead magnet could be anywhere from 1 to 10 pages.
5 pages max. Like if it's more, then like consider, does it really need to be more? And preferably 2 pages, 3 pages, like 4 and 5 start to be fairly long.
Yeah. I know when I met Peter because I signed up for one of his courses like 2 years ago. And I remember getting to the lead magnet thing. And, Atia, I give out this full pack of like 20 things. And I'm like, value. And I'm like, oh shit, I'm not doing this the right way. Yeah, I mean, it has a point in my strategy, but I was like, wow, people, they are busy. They don't have time. They need to grasp something really quick and get that answer to that specific question. So I really love how Peter hones us in and makes us think about what, really what is going to help them. That it's kind of like we're going to a massive networking event and we're automating it and we're shaking hands with lots of people that are interested in the problem, and they need to build rapport with us, and we're kind of just automating that whole process through this lead magnet. That's like, ooh, okay, I'm going to read that email when it comes in. So it doesn't actually have to solve the world, or be totally amazing. It just needs to be enough like, wow, this Sylvie, she's good. I like how she's really communicates clearly. I like this idea. And then I get an email from you the next week, and I get an email from you the next week. And eventually I'm like, I think I'm going to call her. Like, that's all we're building here in an automated way, which is why this funnel is so essential to an online business, because it really just starts to generate leads. I mean, that's what we're here for. Okay, we do need to wrap up. So Peter, what closing remarks from you?
No, I think everything was pretty much covered. But yeah, ask questions in Facebook. I'll try to check it maybe once a day, but like I don't use Facebook. So it's really like, if I remember, I will come, but like you can ask there.
Okay, and if I don't see you, I'll email you too. Thank you for playing in Facebook for this group. I really appreciate it. Okay, and I would I just want to let's just take a key insight you're going to take away from this meeting. Sylvie, you want to kick us off?
Well, really, my key insight is that I might be making it more complicated in my head than it has to be. So I'm going to try to get out of my own way and just do it.
Awesome. Love it. Okay. Atia.
I have a lot of key insights, but I guess the main one me and Dwayne need to sit down and figure out is that elevator pitch.
Okay.
Yeah. So can I ask a really quick question?
Go for it.
So should the lead magnet, the title of the lead magnet be one of our questions? Is that what I'm understanding?
Probably, well, mostly yes. So the question is more probably, how can I do this? And the title would be how to do this.
Okay.
But so yes, it's basically almost the same. Yeah.
Very close. Okay. All right, Dwayne, did you want to, what was your key insight, if you can talk? Maybe he can't.
No.
No, he's not. Okay, well, guys, thank you so much. And I want to thank you guys for hanging on too. I hope you saw the extreme value of getting like this real detailed workshop time. So I'm really glad that that you hung on and got this. I think you're both ready to go, and I look forward to seeing that lead magnet. When can we expect to see a draft of it? I want to hold you guys, you both accountable to a draft of a 1 to 5 page lead magnet. Just what we've discussed today.
Dwayne and I want to say by Friday or Saturday, maybe.
Okay. Friday, Saturday. And Sylvie?
Same here, by Friday or Saturday.
Okay, and Sylvie. All right, I'll check. I will be just arriving in Australia, possibly without internet. I'm going to check in on you. Okay, awesome. Thank you guys very much, and I'll have this recording out as soon as possible. Yeah, that's a wrap.
Thank you, Benet and Peter.
Yeah, Peter, do you want to hang on just for a second? Bye.
Sure.